What is up, guys? Welcome back to another UFC prediction video. This week, we got Petr Yan versus Deiveson Figueredo in the main event, and I'm super excited about this card. Some pretty good prospects on the card as well. I will be giving my predictions for the main card, as well as touching on one of the early prelims. I don't know every single one of these fighters, I will be honest. A lot of these guys coming in off the road to the UFC, which does air at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the middle of the night on the East Coast. So I'm not nocturnal. I haven't been able to watch all of these guys on their way to the UFC, but without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and get right into the card. So yeah, looking to have some good predictions here. Did pretty good on UFC 309. Finally got back on track in terms of our main event predictions for our pay-per-views. You know, Jon Jones, the GOAT of the sport. Beautiful spinning back kick TKO. I think he beats Aspinall. I don't think they fight. So that's what I got to say about UFC 309. Looking at the UFC China Fight Night card, one of the prelims that I'm really looking forward to, I'm probably not going to wake up because it's going to be at like 3 a.m., but Loner Kavanagh versus Jose Ochoa. This is a fight that you'll have to definitely pay attention to. Loner Kavanagh was definitely one of the most impressive prospects coming off of this season's Contender Series. He was the first fight of the first episode, and he caught my eye right away. He even made it into the top 5 of my best Dana White Contender Series prospects of 2024 video that I made. Definitely give that a watch if you want to be on the lookout for a lot of good prospects making their UFC debuts soon. I mentioned in that video to keep an eye out for him in this matchup here on this card, and he's fighting another undefeated guy in Jose Ochoa. This guy, you know, he's coming in off of the, South American, Latin America scene. A lot of those guys aren't really super high level, even if they are undefeated. I'm going to be picking Loner Kavanagh to get it done here either way. I am super high on him, and he's only making his debut here. I actually think he's going to be a serious problem in this flyweight division. We'll have to see if his grappling holds up at a high level, but has looked impressive in Cage Warriors and of course on the Dana White Contender Series. Scored a beautiful knockout there. Definitely has impressive knockout power for a flyweight. You don't see a lot of guys in the flyweight division just absolutely staining people and laying people out flat unless you're looking at like a Deiveson Figueredo, who we will talk about later. Loner Kavanagh has crazy pop for a flyweight, similarly to Deiveson Figueredo. Accurate, beautiful striking, and he's definitely a guy that I'm looking forward to seeing how far he can go in the UFC. You know, like I said, has had some really impressive wins in Cage Warriors, has also fought undefeated fighters in Cage Warriors before, and he was always the guy that kept his O. I think he keeps his O here. Definitely look to rewatch this fight if you're unable to wake up in time for it, and if you are in a time zone where you're able to catch it, definitely make sure to keep your eye on this one. Loner Kavanagh is going to be a prospect to look out for in the flyweight division. Excellent striking, beautiful kickboxing, cerebral fighter. A video that he posted, right after his Dana White Contender Series fight, he planned that KO exactly. He was using that exact combination in the back on the pads. He had probably seen an opening in his opponent and looked to capitalize on it, and he did. Executed it perfectly. Cerebral fighter, smart fighter, super quick, super fast twitch, and yeah, I think he gets the job done. I'm going to pick Loner Kavanagh by second round TKO here in this fight. Moving on to the main card, our opener of the main card, we got an excellent fight here in the light heavyweight division. Ozzy Diaz versus Ming Yang Zhang. Ming Yang Zhang, I'll call him Zhang before I butcher his name, is a very good prospect as well here in the 205-pound division. If you were able to catch his UFC debut against Brendan Ribeiro on UFC 298, you would see that he has excellent power in his hands, a real knockout threat, good technical boxing as well, cuts off the cage, pretty good, intelligent fighter, young guy as well, still only 26 years of age, has a lot of, time to grow in the sport, to improve as well in his fight IQ, his technicality, but, he's also a very good athlete, built good for the 205-pound division, moves well for a 205-pounder. Not really one of these plotty guys that just struggles to string things together, Zhang is actually pretty good at closing the distance, letting off a fast combination with his hands. And Diaz is a lamb getting fed to the slaughter here. Of course, it is in China, so of course they want Zhang to win, get him some popularity with his hometown crowd. Diaz is a guy that has had success in the UFC, has had some knockouts, but if you look at those performances, he's just not overly impressive, tends to just land a lucky shot realistically, has some power in his hands, but other than some power in his hands, that's about all he's got to offer. And I don't think that's going to be enough to deal with Mingyang Zhang, who's aggressive, has good technical boxing, is able to cut off the cage, has real KO power in his hands, accurate as well. And I think that Zhang is going to be a fun fighter in this 205-pound division. I think he's going to have some fun matchups in the future. Maybe him versus Bogdan Guskov, him versus maybe the loser of Volkan Ozdemir, Carlos Ulberg in the future. Probably not the next fight, but in the future. I got Zhang here winning by a first round TKO, a big right hand, big CCP right hand to the chin of Diaz, laying him out stiff. I think Zhang gets another TKO here, looks to keep his win streak going. And I think he's going to be a fighter that's going to be a good prospect in this 205-pound division. I don't think he's going to be a championship level fighter, but I do see him giving us some really fun scraps, some good knockouts in the future. Maybe he can fight Vakitov on Vakitov's way up to the title. I'm sure that would be a very fun striking matchup as well. Considering Zhang was only in his second UFC outing here, I think he gets the job done by first round KO with the right hand on the chin. So give me Zhang to win this fight here, showing out on the China card in his hometown. Our next fight on the card, we have another excellent matchup here in the light heavyweight division. We have Volkan Ozdemir, no time, versus Carlos Ulberg. This is a really interesting fight because Volkan Ozdemir low-key has the style to go in there, completely pin Ulberg against the fence and knock him out, similarly to Kennedy Nzechukwu, which is a win that which is a loss for Carlos Ulberg that I really do not like on paper whatsoever. I know that he was doing okay in the beginning of that fight and kind of got tired and, eventually got KO'd, but a loss to Kennedy Nzechukwu, who lost to OSP, it's just not something I like to see on the side of Carlos Ulberg. Whereas Volkan Ozdemir, he's taken his losses. He's taken his losses to Yuri Prochazka, DC when he got his title shot back in the day. He's taken his losses, but he's also, had some really good wins. You look at the Bogdan Guskov win he got on the Paris card in 2023. You look at his beautiful knockout over Johnny Walker on the Saudi Arabia card over the summer. And, I could see this being a very similar fight in terms of approach for Volkan Ozdemir here. Carlos Ulberg is a guy that fights very similar to a Johnny Walker. On the back foot, a lot of leg kicks, long, rangy, straight shots. But, of course, Carlos Ulberg isn't known for getting absolutely flatlined, turning into a balloon man outside of a car wash like Johnny Walker. So I think it's going to be, a big step up in competition for both of these fighters here. Carlos Ulberg coming in with a good win streak, has fought some mid-level, B-level fighters like Ihor Peteria in the division, coming off of a great early knockout versus Alonzo Minifield. But, you look at it on paper, 15-second knockout looks great, but he went in there and just started slugging for the fences. No real technique, no real game plan. So if this fight extends, I could definitely see Volkan slowly working his way into this fight and landing good boxing combinations. Volkan has some of the best boxing in this division. I would go as far to say that he probably has the second best pure boxing in the division behind Alex Pereira. But he is an undersized light heavyweight. But he does very good with his low kicks and he cuts the distance very well. Another similar stylistic matchup to this Carlos Ulberg fight. Apart from his last fight with Johnny Walker, Volkan also fought Alexander Rakic a few years back. Go ahead and rewatch that fight if you haven't seen it before. But Volkan Ozdemir absolutely minced the lead leg of Alexander Rakic, who's a good leg kicker in his own right. Absolutely minced his leg up, put a welt on it, and was slipping and sliding in the pocket, landing beautiful combinations with his hands like he always does. And a lot of people somehow think Rakic won that fight. That was a clear win for Volkan Ozdemir. And you look at just those 2 wins over Johnny Walker and Alexander Rakic, 2 guys that fight exactly like Carlos Ulberg. Carlos Ulberg, he's got that city kickboxing style, lots of rear hip feints like Izzy, a lot of jabs, like, hip level jabs straight up to the opponent, kind of like an up jab. Really good counter shots. Ulberg has a very nice, clean check hook, pivot out hook, and he uses that well. Big power in his hands. I mean, we've seen that with the knockouts he's been able to score, but, in terms of just a minute-to-minute basis, outside of his big moments, he's landing jabs, he's landing low kicks like the classic city kickboxing style, but he's not super, super impressive. Volkan Ozdemir is definitely live for a KO here, but I think the kicking arsenal, the overall athleticism advantage, the height and reach advantage that Ulberg will have in this fight will be able to be enough for him to squeeze out a 29-28 decision. Because Ozdemir, like I said, he's an undersized light heavyweight, and sometimes when he's fighting guys that, are at that high level, he does tend to get overwhelmed. You look at the Yuri Prochazka fight, a lot of kicks, Yuri rocked him badly with a head kick in that first round, just kind of marauded on him. I know that's Yuri, which is a completely different style than a technical back foot kickboxer like Ulberg, but, we've seen Ulberg be aggressive as well. I think he definitely needs to have aggression in this matchup, stay on the front foot, don't get backed up into a singular panel or in a corner where Volkan can unleash with his heavy hands. I trust Carlos Ulberg to step up to the occasion here. It's not like he's a young prospect. He's a fighter that, is over the age of 30 in this light heavyweight division, not a guy that's on the come up. He needs this win here if he's ever going to foresee, a number 1 contenders fight, a title fight. He's going to need to get this win if he wants that. And Volkan Ozdemir, on the other hand, if he ever wants to get back to the belt as well, after taking his losses to guys like Yuri Prochazka, if he can get another win here, making that a 3-fight win streak over quality competition, he's right back in the mix to fight a Khalil Roundtree, to fight a, Jamal Hill for a number 1 contender spot. And, it's live for him as well. But I'm going to pick Carlos Ulberg to win this via 29-28 split decision, getting rocked in the first round, losing that 10-9, not getting 10-8'd, but getting rocked badly in the first round, losing that 10-9, and then him just being careful, picking Volkan apart at range, just kind of fighting with fear and out-voluming him in the last 2 rounds, scraping out kind of a boring decision that is a bit lackluster. And I don't think Carlos Ulberg's going to be all that great in this division, to be honest, but we'll have to see how he does here. If he passes the Volkan Ozdemir test, I'll be impressed, but either of these guys are live to get knocked out at any point in this fight. I'll take Ulberg to win a split decision. Kong Wang versus Gabriela Fernandez. I couldn't tell you a single Gabriela Fernandez fight that I've ever seen. I don't know her at all. I literally barely watch WMMA. Half the time I, cook food or some shit while those fights are on. Kong Wang, on the other hand, is actually a special fighter. She's very good, she imposes her will, and she has great striking. I'm sure that she has good defensive grappling as well. I mean, I have no reason to think that some B-level WMMA fighter is going to beat her. Kong Wang, she acts like the female Joker. She does little smile shit, and she beat Shevchenko in kickboxing. She's a high-level striker, and she absolutely stained her last opponent with like a one-shot KO within the first minute of her debut. And of course, on the China card here, she's going to go out and get another first-round TKO over this jobber Brazilian. Kong Wang is, an actually exciting WMMA fighter for a change. Half the time, I don't even give WMMA picks. So if I'm talking about a WMMA fighter, they're actually good. So look out for Kong Wang. She gonna get the job done here in China. Kenan Song versus Muslim Salikov. 2 kind of B-level old head fighters here. Surprising to me that Kenan Song is a underdog here in this matchup. Muslim Salikov is really old. Kenan Song's no spring chicken as well. No spring chicken either. But, he's only 34 compared to 40. And, I mean, when you look at the resumes, both of these guys are win one, lose one guys. But, just looking at the last few outings for both of these guys, Max Griffin loss, Ian Gary loss for Kanan Song did drop him badly in that fight. You know, you look at a Rolando Bedoya win, Kevin Jessett beat Song Kanan. But, you know, Kevin Jessett is a pretty good fighter. Brian Battle, you know, did very well in that matchup. I'll speak about Brian Battle in my UFC 310 predictions. I'm very high on him as well. And, you know, you look at the Ricky Glenn fight last time out, did very well in that matchup, displayed his good boxing. Muslim Salikov, last time out in the Battle of Old Heads, beat Santiago Ponzinibbio, split decision. Got stained by Randy Brown before that. Nicholas Dalby kind of smothered him, just kind of put a pace on him, was too old to be able to compete there. Did get a beautiful spinning kick against Andre Fialho, who doesn't have good kick defense whatsoever. But, you know, Muslim Salikov, he's like that old dude who can always pull out a crazy kick out of his fucking back pocket out of nowhere if you're not expecting it. But, you know, in this fight here, I think it could go similarly to the Li Jingliang fight that Muslim Salikov had where he got TKO'd. Look, Kanan Song is no world beater, but he's younger, he's faster, he's more athletic, he's coming off of a good performance. Somehow he is the betting underdog here, which I am a little bit surprised on. Probably not going to be touching this fight, but Muslim Salikov, I just don't think he's going to be quick enough to be able to exchange well with Kanan Song. I don't think the output's going to be enough, and I do think Kanan Song will be able to just block enough kicks to be able to let his hands go, close the distance, be faster, younger, and get the job done by virtue of just being, you know, a little bit fresher, a little bit quicker, better hand combinations. And Salikov, he's going to have his moments. He's going to land a couple fancy kicks, maybe go for a takedown or two, but it's going to be too little too late. He's going to lose a decision, 30-27. So yeah, give me Kanan Song to win this fight here in the feature fight of the evening. Our co-main event of the evening, we got two tough cookies right here. Two, you know, rootin' tootin' WMMA fighters that are gonna go in there and give it their all. Give me Yan Xiaonan. She's actually pretty good. Had a good fight with Zhang on UFC 300. Tabitha Ritchie, you know, she's one of these Brazilian girls that are all right, has a ground game. Look, I'm not going to act like I'm super educated on these two fighters. I like watching high-level men's MMA. These girls, you know, they're good. They're going to go out there and give it their all, but not really much to dive into too deeply there. Give me Yan to win a decision here in China. She's getting put in the co-main event for a nice little bounce-back fight. She's got good striking, good KOs, and yeah, I think she gets the job done here. Give me Yan by decision. We move on to our main event of the evening. This is one of my most anticipated fights of this year. I am super excited for this fight. You know, gonna be first thing in the morning. I'm waking up at 6 a.m. Gonna watch this main card here. And, you know, Petr Yan versus Deiveson Figueredo. No mercy versus the god of war. What more could you ask for? Champ versus champ fight. Or should I say former champ versus former champ fight. I still look at these guys as championship caliber fighters. And, you know, you rewind a couple of years, you look at this fight in 2021, and this is a super fight. Champ versus champ, Deiveson Figueredo coming up for 2 belts fight against a dominant, undefeated Petr Yan, if this fight were to take place in 2021. And look, both of these guys are insanely high level, super entertaining fighters, and we are going to be in for an absolute treat here in this one. The way I would describe this fight would be just an absolute maestro versus an absolute menace. That's kind of how these two guys fight. You know, Petr Yan, super technical boxer, beautiful kicks. You know, his grappling is incredibly entertaining, beautiful, you know, back takes into a reverse trip. You see him, you know, getting his own takedowns a lot of the times as well. You look at the beautiful sweeps he was hitting on Sean O'Malley and Uriah Faber, and, you know, beautiful knees and elbows in the clinch. He is just the absolute quintessential definition of being a perfect technical fighter. In my opinion, I think that there is a real argument that Petr Yan is the most skilled fighter to ever grace the UFC octagon. And of course he's taken his losses, and I'm not saying that he's the best even bantamweight to ever do it. There are a lot of flaws in his game, but in terms of technicality, how he throws an uppercut, how he throws a switch kick to the body, how he's able to time these beautiful takedowns, his scrambling ability, everything like that, his head movement, his defense, the long guard, Everything that he does is, video game level of perfect technique. He just fights like an absolute video game character out of a movie. Super entertaining and just an absolute, maestro. Like I said, just a joy to watch. And Deiveson Figueredo, he is very, very skilled as well. But the way I describe him, he's more of a menace. Big power in his right hand, chopping leg kicks, just mean with them, and super, super timely, quick takedowns. He'll get his head off the center line, dip right underneath your punches, get you down really quick. The flyweight speed is going to be an issue for Petr Yan here. In this matchup, Deiveson Figueredo is fast as lightning. Still at the age of 36, getting up there in age, but still looking in his prime, coming in here off of 3 great wins in the bantamweight division. Schooled Rob Font, made him do the chicken dance multiple times, took him down at will. You look at the fight versus Cody Garbrandt, had a little bit of adversity in the first bit of that fight, but landed a good head kick when Cody went for his sliding leg kick, and after that was able to impose his will. Beautiful, beautiful back taking abilities, and he eventually got the choke. The rear naked choke after threatening the arm triangle. Very good jiu-jitsu on display for Deiveson Figueredo. You look at some high-level submissions he's gotten in his career at the championship level as well. Fight after that, schooled Chito Vera, had a really big amount of money on Deiveson Figueredo there in that fight. Knew he was going to beat Chito Vera. Schooled him in the first round, took him down. Lost the second round, which is a bit of a concern, but, big right hand over the top, knocked down Chito Vera in the third round, securing him the fight. Deiveson Figueredo has some of the most shocking power in the 125 and 135 pound division's history. You look at the nasty, nasty TKOs he's gotten throughout his career, but even some of the wins that he's getting by decision, you look at the guys that he's cracking the chins of, you're looking at some of the most durable fighters in the UFC in those divisions respectively. Look back at his fight with Alexander Pantoja if you haven't watched that. Dropped him on multiple occasions. Big uppercuts, big right hands, sliced him open with elbows. Pantoja is, in my opinion, I don't give a fuck. Pantoja is the most dog tough fighter in that division's history. Deiveson Figueredo made Pantoja want to quit in that fight just by the amount of damage he was doing. Cracking his chin. You barely ever see Pantoja get dropped, just dropped on his ass. Figueredo dropped him on his ass. You look at the fight with Chito Vera, like I said, big right hand in the third round to drop him. Chito Vera had never been dropped, never been TKO'd before that fight. I know he took a lot of damage versus Sean O'Malley, but had a good amount of time off there. Sean O'Malley hit him with a baseball bat to the chin of a knee, and Chito Vera ate that shit like a bag of Doritos. One Figueredo right hand, and Chito Vera was sitting on his ass looking up at the bright lights like a deer in the headlights. Deiveson Figueredo has fight-changing power. Multiple KOs, early in his UFC career, we saw his KO power obviously displayed in his mini fights with Brandon Moreno. Of course, you look at his high-level jiu-jitsu at the championship level, choking out Joseph Benavidez, choking out Alex Perez, who's a high-level grappler in his own right, in the first round with a perfect guillotine choke. The submissions are going to be an issue here for Petr Yan. When we look at Petr Yan's career, of course, the highlights are amazing, but take a look at some of his earlier fights if you don't remember them. In his UFC debut versus Ishihara, in the first round of that fight, got taken down. Of course, he came back at the end of that fight and absolutely dominated, or should I say at the end of that round, and absolutely dominated. Landed a beautiful uppercut that dropped him on his ass, followed it up with a beautiful right hand that was thrown perfectly just off center, caught him right on the cheek, knocked him out stiff. But slight red flag, low-level fighter Ishihara taking down Petr Yan, dropping him on his butt. Not good to see, but still displayed the beautiful boxing, the beautiful timing, the beautiful striking, a great KO. Go back and rewatch that KO if you haven't seen it. Just an absolute brutalization, but still just a small red flag on the side of Petr Yan. Ishihara did take him down. If Petr Yan gets taken down by Figueredo, who's a much higher level grappler than anybody other than Aljamain Sterling, in my opinion, that Petr Yan has fought, it's going to be trouble. You look at his second fight in the UFC versus Jin Soo Son, destroyed him. You know, that's the fight where we really saw just the uppercuts from hell on display. Landed some beautiful uppercuts, had him just popping his head back all night long. Just technical masterclass, you know, the classic slapping left hook to bring the hands up, the body kick right behind it. You know, the spinning back fist to the spinning left hook into the spinning kick to the body or the head. That was on display in that fight. Petr Yan really did show a lot of great techniques in that fight. Wasn't a KO, but one of his more aesthetically pleasing performances for sure. But just to note, in the first 2 rounds of that fight, Jin Soo Son did take down Petr Yan. Just got him with a good double leg, got him down. And Petr Yan, of course, worked his way back up to his feet, which he's really good at doing. But he gets into trouble against guys like Aljamain Sterling who are good at taking the back. You look at a guy like Figueredo, you got to think he's going to be looking to get this fight to the map and take the back, which he's very good at doing. Look at the Cody Garbrandt fight, who's a great wrestler, a good scrambler in his own right. So, you know, even though he absolutely dominated Jin Soo Son and basically just treated him like an uppercut bag, like one of those aqua bags, just hitting uppercuts on him all day, still, the takedowns did get taken down in the first 2 rounds of that fight. You know, you look at the Douglas Silva de Andrade fight, you know, a Brazilian marauder kind of bent over, stocky, like Deiveson Figueredo. Didn't get taken down in that fight, but, you know, I think one of Petr Yan's biggest weaknesses are leg kicks. And, you know, he did take down Douglas Silva de Andrade and ground and pound TKO with elbows. You know, really, really good display of his takedown ability. And, you know, Petr Yan has vicious ground and pound. All you have to do is look at that fight, cut him open badly across the eye. And that really went to show that not only is he a beautiful striker with great kicks and boxing, finesse, combinations, timing, and power in his hands, of course, but very good at changing levels, good overall grappling base, and nasty, nasty ground and pound. That fight definitely displayed that as well, showing his very versatile game. You look at his next 2 fights in his career versus John Dodson and Jimmy Rivera, 2 kind of older generation guys that he did beat by decision. But, you know, another red flag here, when you really start to get into the nitty gritty of Petr Yan's career, did get taken down by John Dodson, got right back up to his feet. But these takedowns are just red flags for me against a super high level guy like Figgy. John Dodson as well, a guy that does not, in my opinion, have the power of a Deiveson Figueredo. He does have good pop in his hands. You know, let's not forget that he did drop Demetrius Johnson in their fight, John Dodson that is. But John Dodson doesn't have the pop of a Figueredo. And John Dodson sat Petr Yan on his ass with a left hook from hell and dropped him badly. Petr Yan was hurt, started going on the defensive for the rest of that round, and, you know, got leg kicked a lot, which is his weakness, like I mentioned. You look at that John Dodson fight, a guy that is similar to Deiveson Figueredo, has the flyweight speed coming up from that division, similar with the way he throws his punches, low base. And, you know, John Dodson was able to clip Petr Yan. That's the only time Petr Yan's chin has ever really been tested, and did get dropped there. Did get taken down in that fight, but he's a high-level fighter. Things are going to happen. You look at the Jimmy Rivera fight. You know, Jimmy Rivera, like I said, the leg kicks are an issue for Yan. Figgy has a nasty, nasty, you know, Brazilian Guerrero calf kick to the lead leg. So he's going to be using that a lot. Look for Petr Yan to be switching stances, which he does constantly in this fight. Which he does constantly in his career. Look for Petr Yan to switch stances a lot in this fight. I think he's going to do a lot of work out of the southpaw stance. You know, beautiful straight left down the middle, a piston of a straight left down the middle from Petr Yan in that stance. Opens up that beautiful left roundhouse kick to the body. That's an absolute baseball bat. And, you know, loves the jab into a spinning back fist, left hook, spinning kick combo as well. Likes to use that from southpaw Petr Yan. And, you know, spent a lot of time in the southpaw stance in that Jimmy Rivera fight. But Jimmy Rivera leg kicked Petr Yan so many times in that fight that Petr Yan was limping in the second round. That fight was actually semi-competitive, except for at the end of the first and the second round, Petr Yan would drop him. You know, in that first round, Petr Yan, classic step through left hook over the top. the same way he knocked down Uriah Faber. Got him with the overhand left in the second round. You know, his classic uppercut, right hand over the top, dropped him there badly. And, you know, got some beautiful timely knockdowns, but that fight was competitive. Like I said, if you don't remember, go rewatch it. He was taking a lot of leg kicks, stumbled badly due to some of them, but did dominate in the third round after getting a takedown with some good ground and pound, showing his versatility once again. The Uriah Faber fight, definitely the fight that really put him on to the casual fans. And, you know, you look back at this fight, I felt bad for my boy Uriah, but, you know, in that first fight, in that first 5 minutes, that first round, Uriah was actually using the exact same stance that Deiveson Figueredo uses and was having some success, you know, with the left kick and a couple knees in the clinch, couple uppercuts, but Petr Yan was getting his timing, big leg kicks. And Petr Yan, you know, he always starts really, really slow. Like literally every single one of his fights here, except for his debut against Ishihara and his, you know, ground and pound stoppage over Douglas Silva. Starts really, really slow, builds into the fight. The Uriah Faber fight is an example of that. Uriah Faber was doing really good at staying on the back foot and kind of cracking him. Couple leg kicks, couple switch kicks out of that karate stance almost that Henry Cejudo, Deiveson Figueredo uses. And that was a 40-year-old Faber having success there. Even though he was coming off of a good win over Ricky Simone, Uriah Faber, you know, he wasn't his 2016 versus Dominic Cruz self in that fight. Petr Yan eventually in that second round just started to brutalize him. Uriah couldn't get any takedowns on him. You know, he had that beautiful right hand step through, left hand, dropped him on his ass in the clinch, knee, elbow, dropped him on his ass again, and then eventually got him with that high kick, starched him. Career best performance in my opinion versus Jose Aldo. Really just displayed a beautiful high level striking fight. That's one of my favorite fights of all time, Jose Aldo versus Petr Yan. Just the Muay Thai exchanges that were going on in that fight were so high level. Eventually getting Jose Aldo, you know, cracked him with a good 1-2, got him with the ground and pound in the 5th round to get that belt. And, you know, that was just the peak of Petr Yan there in that fight. I have never seen, I don't think there's a bantamweight ever that could have beat Petr Yan the night he fought Jose Aldo. And that was a fucking good ass version of Jose Aldo as well. He was not washed in that fight. That's a great win. You know, of course, in his first title defense, god damn it, this was one of the most frustrating things I've ever watched in my life on the Izzy versus Yan card. Co-main event, Petr Yan's dog walking him, dropped him badly in the first. Muay Thai sweeping him all over the octagon, just toying with him. And then in that 4th round, after Aljo shot for the legs, can't do shit, getting easily dismantled in this fight. Of course, Petr Yan threw the knee that changed the entire bantamweight's division's history and absolutely fucked over his career, unfortunately. You know, of course, Aljamain Sterling pulled out of their rematch that was supposed to occur. Corey Sandhagen stepped in. Petr Yan put on an absolute masterclass in that fight, boxed his head off, kicked him to the body plenty of times, and then, you know, dropped him with just the most beautiful highlight reel you'll ever see in your life. Like I said, the jab, spinning back fist, left hook, and then brought the wheel kick behind it. Shit straight out of a video game. So, as far as I'm concerned, at this point in Petr Yan's career, he's literally, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You know, by the time he beat Corey Sandhagen, in my opinion, he's 8-0 in the UFC with 3 title wins under his belt over Jose Aldo, Sterling, and Corey Sandhagen. For all I give a fuck, which is just so impressive. But unfortunately, he fucked himself over with that goddamn knee. And then he got fucking robbed back to back. I can live with the Sean O'Malley one because that was razor sharp. But in my opinion, clearly beat Aljamain Sterling at UFC 273. That was an absolute woeful robbery. It was clear as day that Petr Yan won rounds 1, 4, and 5, dominated in those rounds. Got his back taken, you know, did get his back taken in 2 and 3, but you literally cannot make a fucking argument about 1, 4, and 5. That was a blatant robbery, and that should have been Petr Yan's 4th title fucking win, and another defense under his belt, but, you know, lost that fucking fight there. And then fought Sean O'Malley. And, you know, I can live with the Sean O'Malley winning argument because every time I watch that fight, I swear I see it differently. But, you know, in my opinion, if we're not using a 10-9 must system or a 10-point scoring must system, which of course is unrealistic, but if I'm just watching this fight, if I'm just, you know, walking down the street and I just happen to see Petr Yan and Sean O'Malley have that exact fight on the street and I don't have to score it other than just saying who won, I'd say, yeah, that's a draw. That was, you know, the closest fight to a draw. Obviously not having a 10-8 round in there, but just a complete razor sharp matchup there versus Sean O'Malley, long, wiry striker. Unfortunately lost a split decision there that easily could have gone his way. Another really unlucky performance there by Petr Yan. And, you know, when you look at that, when you really look at Petr Yan's career, you could be looking at 5 title wins over Aljo twice, and Corey and Sean O'Malley. He would be the bantamweight GOAT without any fucking discussion if he wasn't one of the most unlucky fighters in UFC history. And then, you know, got absolutely fucking D-Day'd by Merab. That fight literally made me want to cry watching it. And, you know, Merab really just put on a fucking pace in that fight. It was nasty, crazy work, and really displayed what he was made of in that fight. Thank God Petr Yan was able to come back and get the job done over Song Yadong in beautiful fashion. Timely takedowns, the uppercuts were on display. That Song Yadong that fought Petr Yan with the forward march of death, power in his hands, and the will to win from another planet really impressed me. And Petr Yan was able to turn him back, which, you know, I was celebrating like a motherfucker in that fight. Had money on Petr Yan there and was super ecstatic to see him get back on track with a W. You know, Deiveson Figueredo, of course, we've seen the back and forth with him and Brandon Moreno. Has had really, really good wins over, you know, Tim Elliott, Alexander Pantoja before he even got to the belt, and of course the win streak since bantamweight. I love both of these fighters. They're super fucking entertaining. I had to just absolutely spill about, you know, their career trajectory, both of these guys. This is a super important fight in the bantamweight division. I can definitely see one of these guys either fighting Umar for a #1 contenders fight or getting the next title shot themselves. I'm going to be picking Petr Yan to get this done by second round knockout with a head kick. Okay? Petr Yan's back, bitch. I love Figueredo, and the takedowns are definitely going to be a concern. Really slick takedowns, head off the center line, dip under, get the legs. Like I said, Petr Yan has gotten taken down by far lesser opponents. Obviously, we've seen him get his back taken versus Aljamain Sterling, but after that Merab fight, Petr Yan literally got PTSD. If you look at the way he was sprawling in that Song Yadong fight, he was sprawling like a man on a fucking mission. He literally had PTSD from Merab. He was like, I am not getting taken down. And he had insane sprawling in that fight. But it really did leave him open at times because Song would barely even feign a takedown, and Petr Yan would bite on it like a motherfucker, hips all the way back instantaneously down. And Deiveson Figueredo, if Petr Yan still has that PTSD from Merab, if Deiveson Figueredo fakes it, gets Petr Yan to sprawl, and then, you know, time something from there, a strike or going in for the grappling exchange, could definitely be an issue because Petr Yan, he's very overreactive with his takedowns at times, especially in that Song Yadong fight with his takedown defense. So, you know, the grappling is going to be a big concern of mine on the side of Deiveson Figueredo. Getting to Petr Yan, his back, getting a choke. I think that Figueredo has very, very good chokes. Just as good of a jiu-jitsu game, in my opinion, as Aljamain Sterling. Just as live for a finish. So that is definitely a big concern. Petr Yan is a guy that doesn't get hit a lot, but, you know, did get dropped by John Dodson. If you don't think Figueredo has the power to drop Petr Yan, you're tripping, because Figueredo hits like an 18-wheeler on fucking crack. Hits like a fucking madman. I mean, you saw the way he dismantled Benavidez. You saw the way he dropped Pantoja all over the place, dropping the iron chin Chito Vera. So the big power in the right hand, the big uppercut from hell is definitely what I'm worried about for Petr Yan here, because he does dip his head a lot. But at the end of the day, other than Deiveson Figueredo's Figueredo calf kicks, a big uppercut, and a back take to a choke, I think that Petr Yan's got him covered everywhere. I think Petr Yan's boxing is second to none in the sport. I think he's going to be landing beautiful counter shots. I think that Deiveson Figueredo is going to be a little bit faster here, but I trust the fight IQ of Petr Yan. I think that as long as he's not too overreactive in terms of his defensive grappling, I think he can stay calm enough to, slow it down in the clinch if he needs to. He's a fighter that does build into 5-round fights well, and I see this going similarly to the, Jose Aldo versus Petr Yan fight, where they're going tit for tat. Really, really close fight. Deiveson Figueredo getting some timely takedowns. Yan pops back up, and I see eventually Yan landing a lot of liver kicks, a lot of uppercuts, of course, the overhand right from hell, which he's super good at. I think Figueredo is going to rock Yan at times with the big uppercut, just the absolute menace, Tasmanian devil uppercut that Deiveson Figueredo does like to throw. I think he's going to rock Petr Yan with that within the first 2 rounds, get some back takes within those early rounds as well. But I think Petr Yan weathers the storm of the first 2, lands some good investment shots to the body, straight rights, liver kicks. And I think eventually Figueredo is going to slow down in the 3rd and 4th round. And I think Petr Yan is going to be finding the off-timed left hook over the top. I think the jab's going to be money for him. I think he's going to be blocking most of the shit that Figueredo's throwing at him at that point in the fight. And I think with those investment liver kicks to the body, Petr Yan's going to bring over a nasty high kick, similarly to what he dropped. Fucking what's his name? Dude, I've been fucking yapping. I done forgot the dude's name. Jimmy Rivera, the same high kick that he dropped Jimmy Rivera with in that 2nd round. I think he's going to land that on Deiveson Figueredo and, make Figueredo take a nap here and get back on track. Petr Yan title run starts now, baby. So yeah, give me Petr Yan to get this done via 3rd or 4th round head kick TKO from southpaw with the left kick. I think it's going to be a very tough fight for him. I am very, very, very worried about him coming back from an ACL injury, though, because he did tear his ACL in the Song Yadong fight. Coming back pretty quick from that as well. I hope he's fully recovered, because Deiveson Figueredo, he's going to be shooting for those legs. He's going to be making Petr sprawl a lot. I'm sure that Deiveson Figueredo is going to be catching a lot of kicks, going for takedowns from that. I'm sure Figueredo, if he gets the opportunity to crank on a heel hook or a leg lock, he'll be trying to do that to fuck up Peter's knee. So, Deiveson Figueredo is a menace in there. He's literally fights like a terrorist, just an absolute Tasmanian devil. And he's going to be trying to inflict a lot of damage on Petr Yan. Look for Deiveson Figueredo to kick the knee of Petr Yan a lot of stomps to the knee, a lot of calf kicks, slightly above level, landing on that knee area to stifle the movement and the switch stance ability of Petr Yan. But regardless of all of that, I trust the in-fight adjustments of Petr Yan. I trust this just beautiful striking overall of Petr Yan. I trust his defense, and I think that he's going to be able to get a late stoppage in this fight via high kick. You look at the Jimmy Rivera fight again. In that Jimmy Rivera fight, Petr was loading up on the big right hands over the top, and Jimmy Rivera was slipping all of them, landing good leg kicks as counters. Eventually, Petr Yan found his read, faked the overhand right. Rivera rolled and dipped out to the left side like he had done for the previous 3 or 4 times. Petr Yan threw that overhand, faked it, came over with that step through left hook, stained him, dropped him dead on his fucking face. Didn't KO him, but dropped him fucking badly. And just another example of the beautiful fight IQ of Petr Yan. Super smart fighter, joy to watch, technical maestro. And I'm going to be picking him to get the job done here against Deiveson Figueredo in the main event of this China Fight Night card, looking to continue his career trajectory in a positive momentum after getting that, win back on track against Song Yadong. Really hoping for the best with Petr Yan here. I would hate to see his career fall off. Deiveson Figueredo has a lot left to offer us in this bantamweight division and the UFC as a whole. Gonna be a good fighter, gonna be giving us great fights in this bantamweight division as well. But I see Petr Yan staying at the top longer. Petr Yan's got another 3-4 years at the top, in my opinion. I think that he gets the job done here. I think Deiveson Figueredo ends up fighting, the Song Yadongs, the Peyton Talbots, the guys like this coming up. And I think Petr Yan is still going to be fighting for belts within, 2025, 2026. So super excited for this main event. I absolutely yapped about it forever, but it's a fight that's absolutely worth it. One of my most anticipated fights this year. Deiveson Figueredo is going to get head kicked TKO'd by my boy Petr Yan this weekend. Thank you guys for watching the video and have a great rest of your day.